Welcome home. We are WNST. Tassel, Baltimore. Baltimore Positive. We're positively out on the road in Baltimore County. We'll be in the city next week. It's all brought to you by our friends at the Maryland Lottery. I have Pac-Man scratch-offs to give away. $20 winner over here. We got people getting rich out here. We're at Cooper's North. We are in Mays Chapel. I keep saying like West Timonium, West Cockeysville, just across 83. It is not our first rodeo. It is not our first gumbo here today. It's all brought to you by Liberty Pure Solutions. They're located up here as well. Keep my water nice and clean. I've had some crystal clean water here at Cooper's North, as well as our friends at Jiffy Lube Multicare. And I'm going to find some Jiffy Lube props. Patrick Russell's been my friend for... How long did Kooper live? Kooper the dog, I see the picture in the back.
Yeah, there he is.
Kooper lived a nice, healthy life, but I remember Kooper running around Cooper's back in the day. What era are we talking here? Homicide era, right?
Yeah, I mean, so Kooper was actually born in 95 when I got married.
Okay.
So he was with us until 2004.
Okay.
So he lived about
10 years?
10, 11 years, yeah.
Okay.
5, yeah.
Well, he has spawned a second location and a love for the restaurant business. I mean, I've had you on many times talking about city issues, talking about Fells Point, talking about festivals. I think we used to do Fells Point Festival once in a while down there. You bring the bands in, rock and roll bands. Fleet Week is something that it was my wife's favorite thing, right? So I lived 19 years on the 23rd floor of Harbor Court. So when Fleet Week, and the IRL too, when the IRL came through, it was really loud. But when those jets would go by, we would try to take pictures, and they moved too fast to take a picture, right? And the city, Fleet Week, I don't think people understand. You hear it, you feel it in your chest, right?
It's
and
crazy.
There's no way to not peek out and say, "Wow." You know, Blue Angels, wow, right? So that's kind of the wow of it. And then the ships come in. We've had celebration. We've had amazing things. But to get the word out about coming back into the cities, what I do with the baseball team, the football team, concerts, CFG Bank Arena, this is one of those sort of Fleet Weeks is something that they dreamed up forever to bring people into the city to patronize, not just Fells Point, but the whole city.
That's right. The whole city. I mean, it wraps on the harbor. It goes on Inner Harbor East. So this hasn't been Fleet Week hasn't happened since before COVID. Did you know that?
The last time I remember it happened, I got invited to the Marriott Waterfront and the Atlas guy. Everybody did a big party down there, and they brought the Blue Angels in. So I got pictures with the
nice.
Everything about the harbor that's important, with the ships and Harbor Place and all the things we talk about with the mayor and all of that. These events that we set up, I mean, the Light Festival, Light City was beautiful.
It was great.
I mean, I've had you on for all of these things.
We get involved in all of it. We Coopers and Slancha get anything the city does, we try to get behind. We've got to bring folks back.
Well, it's these kinds of events that, I mean, you and I are similar age. I don't say similar background, but we are familiar with all the machinations of politics. We saw a football team leave and come back, the baseball team move in the stadium and all this stuff. But the city fair, right, the 4th of July,
Ed King
right,
City Fair.
Right, New Year's Eve and fireworks, right?
Halloween.
Well, Halloween for Fells Point became,
huge.
Unbelievable. And that's sort of a built-in holiday. But I'm thinking of dreamed up, manufactured, we're going to have a festival. We're going to have a light city. We're going to have an arts festival. Everybody, the vendors get together in Fells Point. What's the history of the Fells Point Festival? October of every year, right around my birthday, Columbus Day?
First weekend of October.
When did that start?
It started in the 70s, and actually it was there to put money together to avoid having a highway come through Fells Point.
Oh, that's a Barbara Mikulski thing, huh?
Yeah.
Well, she's come on the show and told me all about how that was – O'Donnell Street was going to be 95.
That's right.
And really going to be 90. Mayor Schaefer was in on that. All of that went on.
Preservation Society stepped in, and they actually saved Fells Point to keep it to what it is. It's grown, obviously, but I mean the historic nature of Fells Point. There's nothing else like it in the city.
tell everybody because I don't really know. Like if I'd say, I sort of know political leanings. I sort of know anger with the city. I know how great your food is. I know how great your gumbo. We talk the soccer bar part of Slum.
Yeah.
What made you fall in love with it? Tell everybody where because you have a lacrosse background,
Yeah.
but I really don't know where you went to high school. I really don't know how the dog and the bar happened. I met you through charity. I met you at a charity bartending event with Lou Sada was one of the actors who came on my show. And Belzer was behind the bar.
Yep.
And you catered to those fellas because the set of Homicide was there, and you were
Across the street.
You were a brand new bar then, right?
I wasn't even. I was a bartender there. I bartended at Thames Street Tavern. I started Kooper's in '97, but I started in Thames Street Tavern in '91. I was a bartender in that building, and I bought it 7 or 6 years after I started working there, and turned it into Kooper's.
Why'd you become a bartender there? What was it about?
Well,
there's money to be made in Fells Point in those days on the weekends, right? People came down. It's a good place to work.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Katie, my wife, got me the job there. She had a friend that was a teacher, Nick Marrero, over at Bic, and he owned a Mexican joint in Canton. And anyway, he knew a guy, and they got me a job, and I got a job as a bartender. My wife got me the job at Thames Street Tavern.
And you have a job now on Cobblestone.
Loved it.
Parking always sucked, right? In those days,
it's
right?
always sucked. I mean, people go, it's terrible. Let me tell you, back then, that building was the only. It's amazing what has happened in Fells Point and Inner Harbor East and all around the city for that matter. But what's happened? I mean, there was dilapidated buildings at the end of the block where Inner Harbor East is right now, sitting on a site of nothing. The Broadway Pier was a dump. It's now just a gorgeous hotel. Bars and restaurants did not exist. Retail did not exist. I mean, you're talking 1991 is when I got down there. It is unbelievable what has happened.
That's amazing you'd say that, right? Because some people say problems we have and this has gone downhill or I don't go there. And I hear I'm not going back to the city. I'm here to fight that.
Name a city that doesn't have that challenge. Name one.
Can't. And I travel the world, and every city has these challenges. But when I see it through the eyes and the spirit that you just gave me, I'm that guy. I was in your bar with your dog 30 years ago, and to tell people that television set wasn't a real police station, that it literally was a rat-infested, a completely abandoned
building. It was falling into the freaking harbor.
It was rusted out with nothing there. And the level of involvement to make that the toniest place in the city to sit at the pool and have a drink and get dinner.
Stunning.
And you've been there to witness. So you know what's possible. You know how good this can be.
I've seen it all.
So do I. That's why I'm doing Baltimore Positive. That's why the logo's underneath of you now.
I'm like you said, I was at Memorial Stadium, 33rd Street, as a kid at the World Series games when we played the Phillies. And now, look at the stadium we have now. It's amazing. I was here when the Colts played, and then when we had the Stallions, and I watched some of their games, and then the Ravens came in and played. I had 50-yard line seats at Memorial Stadium watching the Ravens the first 2 years, and then I got PSLs. I have bought in to Baltimore, and I'm actually. You asked me a question earlier.
Where are you from?
I was raised in Pikesville, so right on the border of Mount Washington and Pikesville. So I went to Wellwood Elementary, Pikesville Middle, Pikesville High School, public school guy.
It's your county side.
Yeah,
county side.
County.
Okay,
And, my parents were, weren't together, and I grew up very poor, and
had to go get a job.
You got to get a job. But you asked me why I started bartending. I was working at 13 across the street of the golf course, and then I was working at night when I got old enough to be a busboy at the Mount Washington Tavern. It was my first job in the restaurant industry.
Well, was Ted running it then?
Yeah.
All right. So that's the lacrosse side of things there.
Oh, yeah. I got to tell you a funny
What's the original lacrosse bar?
I'll tell you, it is. Well,
Green Turtle too.
Green Turtle came, I think, after him, and I think the Crease.
Crease, of course, sure.
You have a couple guys, but Ted, I got a funny story to tell you about him. If you don't hear, I'll tell it to you. But while working there, I was new, and I was 15 years old, busboy, and Ted was tough. Everybody knew he was tough. And
that's true.
He's tough. Hey, listen,
I did my show at the Tavern for years. Dude, I love Ted.
That guy I love him. Not everybody does, but I do. I'm walking up the back steps, and that's a gauntlet. And I've got 2 trays of glasses, and the floor is wet as I take each step, and the water is from the glasses from the dishwasher. Right, I slipped, and busted my chin on the glass racks, and then slide down the steps. Ted comes out of his office, looks down, and looks at me and says, "Next time, bring one case of water glasses up. Don't bring two. Not hey." Go wipe the blood off your face and get yourself, are you okay? None of that. So I said, okay. So, I don't know, a week later, I'm walking up with one tray of glasses, slipped again and fell again. And he comes out and he looks at me and says, one glass at a time. So every year he did a Kris Kringle for Christmas. And, of course, we had, 80 people that worked there. And we all picked the name out of a bag. I picked Ted. So I got to get Ted a Christmas gift.
Under $20, or is there a limit?
Yeah,
on this?
whatever it was, something like that.
$10
yeah,
back
it was,
then.
yeah, whatever it was.
Yeah.
But I go to my mother, who is the most creative person I've ever met, and I say, listen, I gotta get this guy a gift. He's my boss. I mean, and I told her the stories, about my trials and tribulations of being a busboy. Day one, I cut my finger. They said don't cut the fruit this way. I did. So she said, well, I have an idea. So she gets me a pair of earmuffs and a cowbell. And she wraps it up, and she says, give this to him. So I wrap it up, and I give it to him, and everyone's giving up their gifts.
Oh, earmuffs and a cowbell. Oh, I'm just trying to – okay,
yeah.
Go ahead, okay.
And I'm 15. The inferences back then weren't the same as they are as you get older. So I didn't know what the hell she was talking about. Why am I doing this? So she says, well, now whenever Ted's walking around the building, he'll have that cowbell around. You'll know where he is. And when you drop the glasses, he won't hear it because he'll be wearing the earmuffs.
What did Ted think of that gift?
He freaking thought it was hilarious. I think that's why I don't even know if he actually remembers it. He might not, but again,
But you remember it.
I remember it because it was probably one of the funniest things I've done.
So you've never done anything else but this, right? I mean, this has been your life. Your
life, yeah.
Beginning with your
Yep.
People say to me, I mean, I just did a video for 40 years of doing media.
Yeah.
All I've ever done is work at a newspaper, work on the radio, and run a radio station and try to promote businesses and promote. I thought I was promoting the Ravens and the Orioles. What I was really promoting was the city. Really what I'm promoting is the land of pleasant living is what I've done. All you've ever done is try to make people happy, put good food and good drinks. I mean, you reached to me, and I'm honored. A couple months ago, you reached me and said, we're doing this crab cake thing and this Fleet Week thing.
Yeah.
Let's get this thing. We haven't done business. Let's do the show here. Let's bring the lottery in. Let's do all that because we're trying to get Fleet Week is something, bringing it back. This is something that every year should be, like Preakness, our little Super Bowl. These are little Super Bowls, these city fairs and these light cities and these. And I think about Chicago. When I worked in Chicago 20 years ago, syndicated, they have those neighborhood festivals, right? Yeah. Every Fells Point has a Fells Point festival. Every Dundalk has a Heritage Fair, right?
Yeah, sure.
Towson Festival, what Nancy does down here on Derby Day. Every year they've been doing that for. But these neighborhood festivals, they're important, and they are a lifeblood of bringing people together.
Look, Ron and I started doing the Oyster Fest last year. We did fall festival. Just to get people back. And when people came back, we had a packed event, and people loved it. Fleet Week, I'm a board member of Sail Baltimore. I don't know if you know that or not, but they're really behind this, bringing the ships in.
Yeah, give me the whole story about that, because, I mean, how does this happen?
It happens through Sail Baltimore.
It's not cheap and easy, and it doesn't come without, a lot of people dedicating a lot of time to making a weekend happen.
It's 8 months in the making minimum, and it's weekly meetings, and it's you're talking about all around the Inner Harbor. There's different stages. There's the amount of infrastructure it takes. Then you just got to get the ships in. Then we had a bridge collapse. And that was a challenge. Not to mention all the things that are happening in the world. So, our Navy.
This was in jeopardy when the bridge collapsed, right? You can't bring ships in.
No, we weren't sure what we were going to be able to do.
Right.
Which also
not like you take them to Annapolis or anything like that, right? I mean, it's on or off. Okay.
That's right. So we were supposed to have Canadians and what other ships were supposed to come in? Off the top of my head, I can't think. But because of what's going on in the world, all the turmoil, they're diverted. So we're only getting our U.S. Navy ships in, which is great. I mean, I'm happy to have them. I wish that we could have more, but because of the state of the country and the world, not really the country, the world, these ships can't come. So we're going to have a lot of ships. We're going to have our flyovers, but it's gonna be. It's unfortunate we're gonna miss the Canadian.
For seeing a city come back to life after COVID and things that we used to enjoy that got either canceled, put off, left alone, found another time or place to move things around. For Fells and for Fells coming back, Thursday, Friday, Saturday afternoons. On my timeline, it feels vibrant, right? And when I've gone down, and I used to walk over there for 20 years. I lived downtown. I'd walk to your place, Admiral's Cup, onto the square. I always kid about Rodo's because Rodo's is the first place I got my first drink.
Yeah.
I was 17, 18, something. But that was, that's where we went. Like on a Friday night, let's go down to Fells.
Sure.
It's still a place to be. I see all the elements that make Fells Point, right? Like beautiful hotel, great food, all price points. You get pizza, you get a cheeseburger, you get crabs, crab cakes, whatever you want. Live music, right? I mean, all of that, oysters, fresh seafood. It still offers all
on the
of
waterfront,
that.
all in the cobblestone streets of historic Fells Point with beautiful buildings. It still offers all that. Daytime business. I mean, look, we have our challenges, okay? Well,
Fox 45's there at 2 o'clock in the morning making sure, every night, one way or another. Yeah. And I see that on my timeline, too. That's an unfortunate part of whatever the backlash would be that people want to gather in Fells Point. I think that's the positive message is if these kids are open, contained, whatever they're doing, they want to be in Fells Point because Fells Point's the place to be. That's still that's still a part of this.
It is, but that's not. I can tell you that the open container laws, we want them enforced. We don't want what's going on there. We want the people to come into the bars and restaurants.
Of course you do.
They're not doing that. So what used to be on Friday and Saturday night, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night, is no longer. Now it's inundated with people who want to stand outside and not go into your businesses. And that's
thinking more New Orleans style in that way that during COVID, the open container, a lot of things change, man. And to your point, bringing in the rails of government, bringing in the rails of policing, crime, safety, public safety, all of that. The perception of that is paramount for all of us. There's no question about that.
Yeah, I mean, New Orleans is different because I think you can walk around with an open container.
Correct. Yeah, that's not our law. Right?
Yeah, right. So
nor should it be for these reasons.
We don't want it to be.
Yes.
It doesn't help us. So, I mean, I would tell you that my dinner business, my lunch business, my happy hour business, my weekend Saturday and Sunday day business is fantastic. And that's kind of where we've pivoted to how we make a living versus having our late night Friday and Saturday nights in Fells Point. I started closing my bars down at 12 o'clock on Friday and Saturday night, which I don't want to do that. But, that's what I've been forced to do. I want that to change, and we're working on it. I think if they get the liquor laws enforced, we'll get people to come back down to Fells Point, go to the bars where the live music's actually playing, instead of putting a disc jockey out on the square, which is a noise ordinance. So we're working on it.
So individually for Fleet Week, what are people going to find when they come down next weekend? Besides great food at your place and hopefully great weather aside from everything else, but the flyovers and the ships and really the sort of the patriotic part of all of this is, we're Fort McHenry, man. We had a bridge go down. I mean, this is a year for people to rally behind Baltimore, and this has a whole sea and air element that I love.
Well, one thing that we did, which I think is awesome, is we've included all the bars and restaurants in it. So it's not just what's going on in the square. What's going on in the square is a draw. So I have a stage. I've got bands all weekend. I've got phenomenal bands. I've got this. I'll give you the rundown. But on Thursday we have a trio. Ricky Wise trio, who's a local guy in Fells Point.
Sure.
He plays all around town. He's just a great dude. Everybody loves him. He's going to kick things off for us on the square on the Broadway Square in Fells Point. And then that night we have Soundtown. They're a funky, really cool band. They play at the Waterfront Hotel. They play at.
So you're moving some of the entertainment out into the public space.
Yeah,
sure.
It's going to be.
It's an outdoor festival.
Full bar.
Okay.
We have a full bar with beers and cocktails. We have a food truck that's going to be out there doing fish tacos and crab cakes. We didn't do a full festival of food on the square. We want everybody to come down and go to the bars and restaurants. And what we wanted you to do was be part of this crab cake thing where everyone would go and taste different crab cakes at all the different restaurants.
I'm in.
See which ones they like the best, right? Because everybody has crab cakes, and everybody has their own version of it. So we just want people to come to the neighborhood, look at some tall ships.
Give me the names of the restaurants involved in this, because I want to think of how many places I've had crab cakes. So, I know Ron Furman's involved in this. So
I haven't even gotten a list yet So Sam was going to be here to meet us today, and
Sure.
she's been handling that. So I don't know, but I know that Kooper's and Slunch are involved in it.
Of course.
So I don't know. I don't know who's else involved.
How many restaurants are there now down there? How many neighbors do you – where you know the owners?
30.
30, okay.
I probably know 30 owners down there, and there's probably 40 bars and restaurants. There's a lot of great retail down there. I mean, we have, our community, it's funny. A lot of people don't understand that we all like each other down there. The bars, the restaurants, the shops, the hotels, like we all want each other to succeed, and we all push for that for one another. I love people coming down. And every Christmas I take, come down, buy something from one of my retailers, and I'll give you a free beer just to get people to Christmas shop instead of a mall and online.
Sure.
Things like that. And there's
I've seen boutiques pop up. My wife, anytime we're down at your place or anytime we're walking the cobblestone and just strolling through, whether it's Ed Lauer playing somewhere or over at the Horse late at night, or my wife wants some candy, we walk through. And the boutiques always catch her eye, specifically on the square. She always wants to go in and try on a hat.
I get it, man. My wife's a shopper.
Yeah,
she loves it down there. If my wife likes it down there, then
but a lot of people don't even know it's there in that way because they think of it as more of an entertainment district.
Right.
I was going to say entertainment. You could say bar.
Yeah.
Well, you have entertainment in your bar. Patrick Russell's here. We're at Cooper's North. It's all brought to you by our friends at the Maryland Lottery. We're at the North location, which is closer to my house. When did this happen? Give me the background on Cooper's North.
I opened Cooper's North in 2012. And then this right here was opened 5 years ago, the bar that we're in.
Okay.
It was a much smaller version. I took this over and gutted it and turned it into the bar that it is. So it was a small restaurant when we first opened.
This always felt like an area that, like, as a guy who – I've owned a radio station in Towson for 26 years.
Yeah.
I never sort of came across the other side of 83. Now, I dated a girl that lived over here. One of my producers lived over here. At one point when Mike Messina was pitching for the Orioles in the early 90s, he lived over here in like a little townhouse. I know Flanagan had a place up here at one point. But there wasn't a meet me at a bar in Mays Chapel in 1996 when you were opening Cooper's downtown.
No.
Like, and even my wife today, my wife broke her ankle. Thank you for everybody that's given her love. But she was thinking she can't work. She's on narcotics. She's like, I was going to get a pedicure today. Come out and maybe have some gumbo and stumble up here. But I mean, you got Chinese. This is a community that maybe 30 years ago you wouldn't have known was here, right?
It wasn't here 30 years ago.
But there were houses here, right? But there weren't.
I mean, it was getting built.
It was go across Padonia Road to figure out where you get your shopping.
Yeah, like
right?
this whole shopping center wasn't here 30 years ago.
When did this exist?
I think, let's see.
She's leaving.
Bye. Love you too.
I hear she has a podcast. Is that your daughter?
Yeah.
Let's promote her podcast. What's her podcast? What? She's not going to come on. She's not.
Tell her she can promote the podcast.
If she's going to promote the podcast, she has to put the pots on.
She can do that.
And she has to stand here.
Yeah. She doesn't have to talk about Fleet Week because she knows nothing about it other than she's bartending all weekend.
Hold on here. Let's get it all together. Let's not cross the streams. Keep your iced tea away from knocking over.
Gotcha.
Only one person's ever knocked water all over my thing. That's John Harbaugh. You saw how that worked out.
Coach,
you got to put that on. There, you just put that on. There you go. And I'm going to pot you up, and you're going to hear that we're going to sound magical. Here, you got to put the microphone.
Oh yes.
See, it sounds better than your podcast.
Do you have one of those for your podcast?
No, this is a lot better than.
What do you have on your podcast?
Okay, let's get you one.
What kind of equipment are you using?
I got it off of Amazon.
Hopefully, the
like,
kind. This your daughter, man?
Yeah, dude, I know.
Straighten her out, man.
It's
there
hard.
You go. All right, there you go. All right. How old are you?
I'm 21.
All right. You get a lottery ticket yet?
I did not.
All right, well, there you go. Courtesy of the Maryland Lottery. Tell us about your podcast. What do you talk about? Because I got competition now. It's like, all these people all these food trucks coming out trying to be your food truck.
That's
it's
right.
like everybody's got a food truck now. Everybody's got a podcast, right? What's your podcast?
That's true. It's called You're Not Alone. It's a mental health podcast.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Studies psychology at school, and she's going to get her degree in that and go forward and help people.
Where are you going to school?
I go to Temple University in Philadelphia.
What should people know about mental health that they don't like? At the heart of it, guys, he and I, we're tough old dudes. We don't tell anybody we're hurting. We don't tell anybody we lost love or we're depressed or whatever. And that's a common theme. Jim Irsay, who stole our football team, he's very into the mental health space. And he throws these events with rock and roll bands and a whole bunch of memorabilia. And he does them every year all over the country. And, NFL owners are getting involved in mental health. It's not uncool. And certainly you're trying to make it cooler to say, hey, I need help, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the whole point of my podcast, especially reaching out to people that are thinking they're alone in all of it. And honestly, I think reaching out to men in general too, because I think that there's a stigma behind men's mental health a lot larger than women's, and trying to just make them feel like they're not alone.
Women talk to each other, you know?
Yeah,
exactly. Dudes, I mean, he'll text me once in a while. I mean, it's hard to get dudes together.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I found this out a couple weeks ago. I got offered Curio Wellness, one of our great sponsors. Wendy offered me, and they're right around a corner here. Wendy offered me a couple of box seats for the Orioles-Yankees game on a third. First off, it's 98 degrees. Let's start with all the obstructions. 98 degrees. I got to work. That's downtown. I don't go there anymore. The game's on TV. Like, you go through all of that, and I'm thinking, all I really want to do is hang out with my dudes. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, they're hotsy-totsy seats or whatever. But if I said, hey, do you want to go to Cooper's and get a beer, that wouldn't be sexy enough for them. Or somebody say, well, I live here. Or let's meet there. It's hard to get dudes together. That's what golf's about for
That's
people,
what golf's
right?
about, right. That's right.
Literally, and I don't golf, so that's hard for me. But this is a men's. I mean, my audience being a lot of older dudes. I mean, this is something that's. I've lost friends. I certainly have had friends. My wife and I were talking this morning about. Several of our friends who've lost their children to this. Is this something that's impacted you, that gets you involved in this?
Yeah, absolutely. I've dealt with my own struggles, and I think that's basically what I do on the podcast, is talk about my own struggles and things that I've been through, so that I can try and reach people that may be going through the same thing and make them realize that they're not alone in the process.
Where'd you find your inspiration for help?
Oh, goodness. Honestly, in myself, to be honest. I was pretty young when I went through some issues with some past relationships, and I decided that I wanted to get some help for that, and I started seeing a therapist, and it just helped a lot. I've been in therapy for the past 4 years.
There's a thing about being a parent that if you say, oh, my kid's in therapy, like forever, or, I'm seeing a shrink, right? That's the 80s way, what's something wrong with you? Literally, we've grown up with that. And that's been instilled culturally, through mail, through in all of that way, and reinforced, I think, in music even, in a lot of different ways, to you're strong enough to take care of yourself. Sometimes you're not, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. Sometimes you're not, and it's totally fine to ask for help, is what I've learned. And I think that I try to push that onto people and just make them realize that it's totally okay to, ask someone for help. And so that's kind of what
he asked you for lunch today, and you ditched her off on lunch. She wasn't going to do the podcast.
I was supposed to be down in Fells today.
You're working.
Yeah.
You got your work uniform on.
Yeah, I do.
I got to get a shirt. Now you're sponsoring a show. We got to go get a shirt here.
Yeah.
Do that.
One thing I want to add to this is interesting that you said is that, guys our age, we have trouble with, getting help and looking for it, asking.
There's a phone number now for it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but even so, you still don't you don't want to admit you need it. One of the things that when she started going through therapy as a young kid, I was kind of like, what the hell is going on here?
Right.
Kids, we live in a nice home. We go to nice schools. We have, everything's nice for us, okay?
As a parent, it's hard to coach that up, too.
Well,
you're not prepared for it.
You can't. So what ended up, I think, breaking through for me was actually sitting in with her therapist and listening to her talk to the therapist, and the therapist actually helping me learn more about her. And at that point,
she's telling the therapist stuff she'll never tell you.
Right.
Period.
But that's fine.
That's why you get a therapist. Right?
Yeah, but for me to actually then sit down and listen to her and really changed our relationship. And we've always had a great relationship, but
I felt like I screwed it up today, busting you guys up at lunch here.
Yeah.
Oh no! I just popped in. I saw he was there.
She's working Fleet Week all weekend with me.
Yeah, right. Keep going. You're talking about her.
So anyway, I think that what's important about your podcast, about what you're doing, is that people like me can also be reached. And I never was the kind of person. My father-in-law was a psychologist, and I always felt like every time I walked in the door, he's figuring out what I'm up to.
Judging you, right?
Analyzing
and that's not how he was. He was a wonderful human being.
And he wanted to help, but I
never needed it.
In order to get help, you have to say, this is my issue or challenge.
Yeah.
And if you say I have a challenge or an issue, it shows some sort of, I'm not smart enough, I'm weak enough, I need help, I'm helpless.
We never would admit we need help.
Yeah.
You run a restaurant. You can't do this without help, dude.
I'm talking about mental help. I would never admit that. So now that I'm older, I realize, okay, it's important that you open up lines of communication that you wouldn't have done. I would have never have I don't know what would have happened with her if she didn't go through what she did. It was all,
look at her now. She's doing awesome.
Thriving. She's killing it.
Where's the podcast? Tell everybody where to find it. Give me the whole deal.
So you can find it on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. It's called YNA, You're Not Alone by Kylie Russell. Yeah, so I have about 6-7 episodes up right now. I actually have to do a new one soon, so I think I'm going to be talking about, I think, bullying in high school and dealing with, like, mean girls and all that stuff. So that's my next one that I think I'm going to talk about.
How many do you do? How often?
So I was on top of it a little bit more back in college.
I love these podcasts. When do you do it? Whenever I want.
Yeah.
I wish I had that gig. When do you serve your gumbo? Whenever I want, you know.
Yeah, it's just for fun, so I don't make money off of it. I just do it to do it. So.
Well, you do it well enough, maybe you can make money.
Yeah,
you know?
that's true. That's true.
Please don't make any money. I got enough competition, with these podcasters. Well, thanks for stopping by.
Of course.
Patrick Russell, you want to say another segment? Because I need to take a break at some point here.
Yeah.
Why don't we talk some more about Fleet Week and more about the Fells Point? We're 30 minutes into this. We're at Cooper's North. I've already given you a Pac-Man scratch. We had a $20 winner at the table here. I come in sort of when it's slow and nice and quiet here because this place gets booming on weekends. We got music up here. I want to talk about the music and the entertainment. We're going to be at Fleet Week. We're going to be doing this show next Friday. It's not going to be this calm next Friday, right, at Cooper's?
No.
Friday afternoon, we're going to be doing crab cakes. You better get Furman over to your place to sit down with me. He's my original OG. Max is on Broadway. He gets mad when I say that. We're a tap house.
Yeah, we're a tap
I'm like,
house, yeah.
dude, man, I sat in there with candles with the Rembrandts one night singing songs. Pac-Man Scratch Offs brought to you by the Maryland Lottery. A big thing with home run riches and grand slams with the Orioles, so make sure you're supporting them and supporting our friends at Liberty Pure Solutions and Jiffy Lube Multi-Care. Patrick Russell supporting us, Cooper, Slancha, Fleet Week. We're in the middle of it. We're promoting mental health. I haven't even mentioned the gumbo yet.
Oh, yeah.
You walk in, and it's like a script. I'm sitting here with this vat of gumbo that she called it a cup. How the hell was that the cup? This thing was this big. How could that be the cup?
What's
What's
the
the
a meal
bowl?
in itself. The bowl is.
She talked me out of the bowl.
You don't need a bowl. Bowl goes home with you.
All right, good enough. We'll be back for more. We're at Cooper's. We're going to talk some more about Fleet Week and talk more about Cooper and talk more about Fells Point and more about Mays Chapel right after this. Stay with us.